Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Landscaping to the Point, where me and JC get to talk about some great stuff in the green industry and just go about our days like normal. So, welcome everybody. If you're listening live, thank you for listening. If you're watching later date, thank you. If you're listening at a later date, thank you also. Let us know if you got any comments or not by sending us a DM over at Landscaping to the Point. So, JC, welcome back. It's been a couple weeks. I know last week was hectic for all of us, and I think we're getting to that point where we're about mid-year almost. So the summer's about here. The summer is actually here now because it just turned the last weekend. So yeah. How's the weather by you guys?
Right now, man, it's been rainy, but this past weekend was really nice, and I think the rest of the week is kind of looking to be a lot better. So we're definitely in that time of the year. 4th of July is coming around the corner, man. So it's nuts because it just seems like it was yesterday. We were just talking about wrapping up the winter season, and now we're already halfway through.
I know. I mean, if Josh was on here, Josh would be like, "Oh, this is the perfect time to get your stuff for the snow removal right now.
Yeah,
Get that
yeah,
snow
do the
plow, get
contract.
everything." Yeah,
Yeah,
that's and I get it. I mean, we all have that time where we have to prepare for the next season, and I hate to say it, but I've already been. We have one irrigation job left to do that we're doing tomorrow. It was the last irrigation turn on, which it's almost freaking July, and. But like I said before, the last episode we had all that one company and went out of business. But the one that we picked up was one of our clients that we've been doing landscaping for years and been trying to do other things for. And they just kind of was like, "Hey, do you still do irrigation? We'd love to have you come out and do our irrigation." And I said, "Well, it'll be about a week." And they were like, "No problem. Whenever you can get out here, you just go ahead and we'll tell you where it's all the system's at, and you can go for it." And so we're going to go ahead and go do it tomorrow.
nice.
So it's a bigger commercial property, so we're glad to be out there. And but then I'm already starting to prepare, thinking about when I should start shutting them down. And it's like, but we are getting some hot weather next week. It actually got some rain and some cooler weather this week, which is nice. The grass started to green up. We were starting to see a lot of dryness here, and now it's starting to green up. And of course, we're going to get 90s next week, almost 100 degrees feeling temperatures. So that grass is going to start turning brown again. So, I think it's one of those things that's hard to prepare. Us as a company always raise our blades just to make sure that we're still being able to cut and stuff. But like that last time when the drought came in, it was kind of hard. You already, we're always cutting a little bit lower just to make sure when we get there every week, because it grows so fast that, you don't want to go up there and be like, "Oh, it's 6 inches," and we got to cut down to 3. But how do you prepare yourself for that? How do you prepare for a drought? You can't really half the time. It's one of those things is that you can, unless you cut at the same height all the time, it might work out. But if not, how do you prepare yourself? You can't. I feel that you can't. I mean, do you feel that you could prepare for a drought coming in, JC?
I mean, there's a lot of things you could try to get ahead of the 8 ball with, but I mean, yeah, I mean, a drought's a drought, especially if you have irrigation systems, and you're going to be trying to keep up with Mother Nature. But one of the things that I do, and this year I've done it a little differently, where sometimes I fluctuate between the different lengths that I cut the lawn at. I kept mine at 4 inches year round.
Okay.
And another thing too is once the summer hits, I don't bag. I like to keep it mulched, and I think most people do. But yeah, as far as combating the drought, I mean, it is what it is. Get your early morning watering, irrigation in. If you don't have irrigation, then get out there with the sprinklers or whatever you can do. But hey, what better time to sell irrigation, right?
Yeah.
You
I
know?
mean, if you're not selling irrigation when it's coming through, or selling fertilizer when it's coming through, I mean, that's something that, definitely get yourself certified in it, or get licensed in fertilization. Make sure that you can be able to do it, because it is good money income. It is something that, like you're saying right there, is like irrigation. I mean, everybody should have irrigation. And if you ain't got irrigation, you might want to sell it to somebody. I mean, it is good income. There is stuff like we do startups, we do installs. We've had a lot this year of systems that, because of the cold weather, their systems, were not properly turned down from other companies, and stuff breaks. You're out there fixing stuff that people break. I hate to say it, but there's a couple of systems of ours that we had where, we turned them off and the customer went and turned the water downstairs on accident and let it go during the winter. And then, you show up in the spring and here the system's all broke outside. So you're just changing all the back valves and all the piping. So, I mean, it's a good income, as long as you know how to do that stuff. And a lot of it's pretty easy, if you know how to use PVC or copper, and connect everything. So it's pretty easy. I've been doing it for years. So, my dad did a lot of plumbing. So it actually helped out knowing, stuff from him. And it was actually pretty easy to where I can go through and change a pressure vacuum in literally about 15 minutes. So, and that's including the valves, the main bell housing and all the plumbing connected to it. So, I mean, it's not hard if you know what you're doing. So, and it's a good income, really is. But actually starting up irrigation is real good too. So, I mean, knowing, I think, there is a lot of places out there like Site One. I don't know if Rainbird still does it, but Rainbird used to do classes. So there is ways to learn how to start up systems and continuously run them. And I think that's one of the things that if you're interested in, definitely look into. Don't look at that guy on the internet that's like, hey, I'll show you this system, how to start up for $49.99. No, go to the main companies. Go to Rainbird. Go to Toro. Trying to think, Irritol has them. There's a couple different systems that you want to go to them and see if they have training for it, because I'll tell you what, they're going to give you a little bit more extensive training. And I'll tell you that one thing, 90 of them % will not charge you to learn how to do it. They'll train you, and they'll even give you lunch after these places. So you might want to look into that. So I know Ewing sells a lot of irrigation parts. Site One does too. So if you're looking at getting into something like that, contact one of them first and see what they got to offer, because it might help you out.
That's a good point, man. We've talked a million times on this podcast about, different types of classes and courses and seminars that you could take, but very valid point where, like you said, places like Rainbird will offer, free classes. And don't think that, that saying in life that nothing is free. There are certain things in life that is free. And the reason for that is they want more installers to be out there so that they could sell more product, right? And now that they trained you in their specific product, and now you're going to be a resource for them, selling. You're kind of like subcontracting in a way. They're making money off of your sales, because more of their product is being sold. So there's every company is going to be unique in itself, and they're going to have certain features that other companies don't, and they want to train you on their specific product. And that's why they're going to be offering those courses to you guys for free. So if you could find those, I mean, knowledge is money, man, in this business. The more you know, and the more that you're able to offer, the more successful your business is going to be.
I agree with that. I agree with that. And I think that, you're going to learn a lot more off of them classes too, because I'll tell you what, out of all the classes I've taken from Rainbird, and Site One, and Toro, I've learned a lot. And I think I've only paid for one class. And it was actually a class that it was $50. Okay. I'll tell you this, it was $50 for the class, but I got a couple hand tools. I got a voltmeter and some other electrical diagnostic tools. So what I would have paid for those tools would have came out to $250 at that time. And for $50, I'll tell you what, it was worth it. Plus I got lunch out of it and drinks out of it. And you can't pass that up. You really can't, so definitely look at some of these places, because like you said, they want you to learn. They want you to be able to be out there and install it the right way.
Yeah.
They're not going to be like, oh yeah, this is, how you do it. I mean, yeah, I could teach you guys all how to do it real quick, but they're going to teach you the way that they want you to install it the right way. So they're going to teach you how to use it, what parts to use, when it comes to electric, what kind of electric voltage you need to have when you're working with valves and all that stuff. So, I mean, this is going to be one of those things that you want to look into if you're looking into getting into irrigation. There's so many of them places out there, and I think, you could start to learn from different people. So,
Yeah, man. It's funny because like they're going to give you quality training because they don't want people to think that their products are garbage. And if
No.
it's incorrectly installed, and you have problems with it, then that's just going to put a bad taste in the customer's mouth. And so they value the training that they're offering to you.
Right, and you'll get a certification. I mean, a lot of them give you a little certification. I got little certifications in different parts of irrigation, so I think that helps you out when you're trying to sell a customer, especially when you're trying to sell some of these commercial companies. They're kind of on the fence sometimes, and if you got certifications or if you got license to show them, they're more likely to go with you because they can say, "Oh, wow, you're certified in that? Wow, the last guy that did it just told me he knew how to do it, and he did it for so long." Well, yeah, but if you have the certifications, and especially if it's from like Rainbird or Irritol or Toro, they're going to be like, "Wow, like I didn't even know that they had that kind of stuff," and that's a plus for you in the back end. I think any type of class that you can take, like we've talked about before, in the past, like even go down to Equip. There's some of these classes down at Equip. Yeah, you might pay for them, but it is worth it. It's 100% worth it to take some of these classes because you're going to learn so much from other professionals that have done it like me for 30 years or plus, or you're going to learn it from the actual company that makes the piece of equipment, and wants you to use their product. So, definitely go down there and try some of these classes out. If you're going down to Equip, go check them out. Definitely check out the classes and say, hey, what's $75? What's $100? It's gonna come back to you in tenfold sometimes. You're learning it, you're knowing how to do it. You're gonna be able to get the expert advice that you need to. You're probably gonna get somebody's number that works for the company that like you can contact if you got a question and you're like, oh, I don't know what I can do about this. You can call that person up and be like, hey, so how do I do this? And they're gonna explain it to you over the phone. So I think that's one of the good things that you can do if you go to these classes is you're learning 10 times more than what you need to know too. So, but yeah, so JC, are you going to Equip? You're still thinking about it, aren't you?
Man, I hate like giving a solid answer nowadays because I always intend to want to say yes I am and yes I want to go and then the title of your
maybe's fine.
Yeah, but what I'm trying to get at is like look at the title of our podcast today. Life happens, right? Like your intention to go there is like, yeah, I think I really want to go this year. I want to go this year, and then it gets closer to it, and then all of a sudden something else happens in life where it's like, oh man, it's not the timing's not right. I want to go, and it's been a few years since I have gone now. Especially being out of the UAG. But I've gone before I was a part of anything. When I went, the first time I went was 2016, and I didn't know anybody, I didn't know anything, and I had a great time. And I like the city of Louisville, so I'm going to aim for it. I guess that's the best answer I could give you. Is I'm going to aim for it. Whether I do so or not, I'm not sure, but I do want to aim for it, and I would like to go. Yeah,
I think that's a good point.
Yeah.
Life does change, and we do make plans sometimes. And I think that's one of the things in my business when people ask me when I'm going to start a job, I can't give them a certain date because just like what you just said, life happens. You don't know what you're doing that day. You might, that week might rain so much to where you're backed up, or you might be behind because of, parts or something. That's why I don't like to give dates on a lot of times when we start a job
Mm.
until literally I know the next morning. So if I know within 24 hours that I'm going to be there doing that job, I'll contact the customer and say, okay, we're going to be there tomorrow. We're going to start your job. Just want to let you know that. And I think that's one of the things you can do is, a lot of guys can schedule jobs out. That's awesome. There's a lot of things we can do for scheduling out. Even, you know, like me for scheduling irrigation startups, I don't schedule them till 24 hours in advance. So that way I can make sure. And then I know a lot of guys, they'll schedule like 10, 15 jobs in a day and they
Mm.
give them only like an hour. Sometimes you'll be on an irrigation job for, more than an hour sometimes. You might have to run, go get parts or something. That's life. Life happens. You don't know what that job's going to be like that day. So I like to schedule at least, like 4 jobs in a day. And if I can be able to get an extra job in there, I'll know a lot of my customers, I know if they're going to be at home on certain days. So I'll say, okay, well, I'm over in your neighborhood. Can I swing by and, turn on your irrigation? Sure. If you're over here, sure. Why not?
Mm.
It makes that customer happy instead of having to be like waiting forever to be like, hey, I know I'm on the schedule. When are you going to come? But give them that 24-hour advance notice. Communication, I guess, is key when it comes to happening with stuff in life and in your business and running everything that you're running on. We're always running all over the place sometimes. And I think that's one of the things that as we start to get older in our lives, we start to do more and more things. And you don't realize that you're packing on more work, but you're actually packing on more stuff in your life. So you got to remember to take it slow sometimes and just take it job by job sometimes. I think that's one of the best things you can do.
I think it's tough. Like nowadays, people we've turned into a society where everything is fast. We order something at Amazon, we get it either the same day or the next day. Get something to eat at a restaurant. You want a quick service like that. But as a business, right? What do you? How do you balance that? Like, obviously, you want to make sure that if you offer a service to a customer, that you want to get it done on schedule, on time. But how do you also make sure that with everything else going on, that you're able to deliver that in time and with quality, right? Because it, it if you're trying to book 6, 7 different jobs in a tight schedule, you're not going to have the time to make sure that that quality is there, distributed evenly amongst those jobs. Like it's either one or another. My example. So my car's in the shop and I brought it in last week and my mechanic told me it would be ready in 3 days, right? And then he called me on the third day, said, hey, it's not going to be this week, it's going to be next week, right? Any other customer would have been upset, right? But me as a customer, I'm very patient on that job. So I'm like, cool, no
Right.
problem. I don't stress it because I don't want him to feel overwhelmed and then end up doing a crappy job where I got to bring that car back and something's wrong. So although I would love the car back as quickly as possible, I value more the fact that the job should be done with quality first. So it's like this business is tough because sometimes you feel you have to promise your customers something, and when you can't deliver and you cause that stress on yourself, like how do you make sure that you provide the same amount of quality in that timely fashion?
I think it's more of you got to provide that quality on every job. I think because even we do get stressed. We get a lot of work, especially in the spring. In the spring, we're getting slammed left and right. So how do you make sure that you keep every job the right quality? Is to make sure that you have different systems in place. Like if Josh was here, he's got different systems and processes that he runs his business. And I think everybody has their certain way that they do things. Like we go to a mulch job. We're gonna take our time, make sure we pull the weeds first. We're gonna edge all the beds out, and then we're going to go, if we have to spray, we're going to spray them before we even put mulch down. And then when we're done, we're going to make sure that it looks good. We're going to make sure we're going section by section instead of, rushing through it and just throwing mulch everywhere and saying, okay, there we go. I think you have to take your time at it and make sure that you're putting in the 100%. And if you're running behind on a job and you already promised somebody that you're going to be there, in the next hour or 2 hours, communicate with them. If you started another job before that and it's going to take you 3 hours and you started it and it's going to run into that time frame, communicate when you get to that job and say, hey, just wanted to let you know I'm running behind today. We're at another job. We'll definitely be there today. Or, hey, we might not be there till tomorrow. Let them know. Communication is key when it comes to business, because if you're not communicating with your customer, then that customer is going to be like, well, if you can't show up on that time frame, well, maybe he's not the right person.
Right.
Maybe he's not going to do the right quality. So maybe I'll go with somebody else if he's not here. So I think you got to let the customer know, but you got to slow down and not be in such a hurry, especially in the spring rush. Spring rush, all of us in the green industry are just nonstop running around with our heads cut off sometimes, and there's nothing we can do about it. But you got to take it, day by day and job by job, and give that quality, take that time. If you show up to a job and that it's 6 inches of grass and you gotta cut it, take your time, cut it twice. It might take you an hour, it might take you a little bit later, but don't rush through it.
Yeah. And a lot of new businesses will, like, innocently have that feeling or mentality that they have to book as much as they can and, get the job done. But, we've discussed that many times, but I got a question for you as far as quality goes. We were just talking quality, right?
Yeah.
What do you do in situations where you do a job, you're not happy with it, but the customer is? Do you leave because the customer is satisfied, or do you tell the customer, hey, I know you like it, I'm not happy with it, I need to fix this and I'm going to do it this way? What do you do?
Oh, that's a hard one, because if the customer's happy,
We're all perfectionists, right? We know, like, when we do a job that it didn't come out the way we wanted it, and it bothers us.
Right. I pretty much are gonna refix it if it's something that needs to be fixed. If it's not the way I want it done, I'm gonna fix it, to my perfection. But if it comes to, let's say, if we're planting and the customer's like, I'm fine with it being here, and you think it needs to be moved because of the sun or the area it's at and might be damaged faster, I think at that point you have to explain to the customer why it needs to be moved. If it's a tree, let's say, certain Japanese maples will not like the wind. So, if it's getting hit with wind nonstop, you got to let the customer know. Maybe that customer wants it there, but let the customer know and say, hey, I just want to let you know that that's not a perfect spot for it. I would suggest over here because it's not getting hit with the wind. That would give it more chances of survival. If you want me to plant it there, that's fine, but I'm going to let you know right away that it should be moved. So I think that's one of the things you got to do, instead of just saying, yeah, the customer's fine. Okay, I'm good. I've seen a lot of customers, I hate to say this, over the last couple of years, especially as we're picking up new customers this year and last year, there's been a lot of companies that'll just go and mow their grass. So they don't go and weed whip, they don't go into edge. And so you show up and, like our company, that's one of our things we do is we weed whip, we edge every job that we're at, so we're not going to leave it half-assed, coming down to it. So, but when you're doing that and the customer's like, well, I was fine with you mowing it, I just wanted you to mow it. Well, weed whipping's part of it. Edging's part of it. Blowing's part of it. I can't leave it, with clumps in the yard, because of that's, one of the things I want to make sure that there's no clumps in the yards. Yeah, we don't bag them.
Because somebody else sees it. Yeah, somebody else sees it to say,
Right.
that company does a shitty job.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to come out and say, yeah, well, the company before you did a shitty job. I'm not. I'm just going to be like, this is how we do it. So you're going to gain more out of what it is, what I'm doing for you. So, I mean, but I think that
Yeah.
it shows your professionalism by doing that, also by telling the customer like, hey, this is how we do it, and then doing it
Mm.
the way you want it done. So especially as you start to get bigger and you start to get more people, you want to teach your employees how you do it too, because we're all perfectionists, but you want to teach your employees to be that perfectionist too.
Uh, that's like what you explained there about the Japanese maple and having it. That's more of like a concern, a changing
Right.
concern. But I'm talking. Let's say you do like a hardscape
Okay.
job, right? And you have this image in your mind, and it's like, oh, it's going to come out awesome, and you do it, but you're not satisfied with it. You're like, the design. I don't like that here. I want to change this here. I don't. But the customer loves it.
Yeah.
The customer's like, yeah, that looks great. You know that you will not be able to sleep at night because you left that job the way you didn't want to leave it. So what do you do? Do you? I mean, the customer could be like, fine, if you want to change, that's cool, but I like it. I really do like it. Do you walk away and go on to the next job, or do you
If it's
fix
if
that
it's something
at
that
home?
I know that should be a different way, I think I'm gonna do it
Yeah.
the other way to make sure it's done that way that I think it looks better, and then approach the customer again with it. And
Mm,
and if they don't like the way that I feel, it should be, then maybe I'll have to go back and rechange it to what they like.
mm,
But I think that's where it comes into a hard time. Sometimes you always want the customer to be happy, and that,
right.
so it comes down to sometimes where, like I said, communicate with them on why it should be a different way and try to explain to them. But if they're going back and forth with you and, they're totally happy with the job you did, then, sometimes you do got to walk away. It's hard because, like you said, it's going to drive you nuts the rest of the night. It's going to drive you nuts, a week from now. And you might be at that job nonstop, mowing it, and it's going to drive you nuts every time you go there every week, seeing that, that patio's messed up or the landscaping's in the wrong way that you didn't really want to do, but the customer was happy, so
Yeah. See, this is an example of something that this is a true story. So I was given a job, not a job, but like a task at my
okay.
job to, on this blank wall, design an image, right, of a certain thing, and I did that. It was about maybe 12 feet or greater.
Okay.
So I bought the paint. I did everything, and this color blue that I purchased, I thought this blue is going to look awesome, right?
Right.
So I complete the entire thing, and at the end when I finish, I'm like, I don't like that blue. I don't like it.
Right.
Like it didn't come out the way I wanted it to, and everybody else is telling me, "Oh man, that looks great. That looks awesome." I'm like, "Thank you, but I don't like it."
Right.
Scott, I did the whole thing over again. I painted the entire thing completely over again just because I was not satisfied with that blue.
Right.
And you'll see something that you'll notice something because you're in the business that the customer won't
Right.
notice, like aesthetic wise, right? Like aesthetic wise, and they may be like, "Oh my god, this is the greatest thing! I can't believe how awesome it looks." But yourself, you're like, "Yeah, I don't like it, man. I can't sleep tonight knowing that I left that job the way it was."
Right.
Yeah.
I think it's hard sometimes. I think a lot of times when it comes to landscaping and installs, it's easier to have the customer not there right then at that time when you're doing it, so that way they can't come out and be like, "Oh, that looks beautiful," and you might be not liking the way the plants are sitting, but you're like, okay, I like to put all the plants out first before I install them and look at them and make sure that that's where I want to put them,
Mm,
and I've done, and that's one of the things. Like, I don't do a lot of designs, but when I do, I try to make sure that that's where I exactly want them. But it's like, even if I do a design, that could change. That could totally
Right.
change. I could say, I'm gonna put five hostas here and two burning bushes, and then when I get there, I'm like, no, I don't want the five hostas here. Maybe I want to go a couple daylilies and three hostas. So it's one of those things. I think it's for easier for us that do it a lot to know exactly what we want to look like when we're done with it. And I feel it's easier if the customer's not there when you're doing the install till you're done to be able to say, look at this now. Because then at that point,
Mm.
it's done the right way. Instead of like, hey,
Yeah.
then walk out when you're, almost done and be like, hey, yeah, I like it this way. And you're like, yeah, but I don't like these plants
Right.
here. I want to move these plants. So I got to move these plants. It's one of those things. It's better sometimes if they're not there. So
I don't know if he's watching the podcast tonight live. He usually does, which is kind of awesome. Or if he's going to listen to this later on. But Paul Kamara, I know we bring him all the time, but Paul is a master at his craft, and I think everybody in the industry respects him because of that. Not only that, because he's an awesome guy, but I know that he is such a perfectionist that if he didn't like something the way it came out at the end, he would completely do it over again if he felt he had to,
oh yeah, it would.
even if the customer was satisfied with it. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I know him. He would
But
definitely change it up right then and there. Like he would stay extra if it cost him a couple hours. He'd stay to make sure that it's done the right way he wanted.
I know he would. And the thing with him is that he's so good that doesn't happen often, I don't think. But I know it has happened to him before, and I'm sure I could bet on the fact that if he's not satisfied, he's not leaving that job site.
No, I don't think he is. I really don't think he is. I think that's one of the things it's hard for us as landscapers to do it. Like I said, I don't like to show the final product till I'm done. It's we just did this one last week and the customer was home, but she was busy. So it was one of those things. And every time she'd come out, she'd be like, it looks good. And we weren't even done. So, I'm like, okay, wait till we're done and then come out and look at it. There's a lot more that we have to do, and she was just like, okay, no problem, and after a couple times, she's like, don't mind me. I'm nosy. I like to see what's going on. And I'm like, you're fine, but give me another hour and I'll be done,
Right.
So it's one of those things.
Then,
like I said, I like to do it when the customers aren't around so I can do it the right way I want it done. So they can just be
then
happy.
there's times when it looks shitty at the end, and you have a super nice customer that knows it's shitty at the end, but they'll say, "Oh my god, it looks great,"
Right. And at that point, what do you do? You're like, I've been in those jobs where, it's taking longer than what you expected. So you're kind of in the hole and you're like, do I fix it the right way? Or, do I tell them I need to change these out? Or what do I do at that point? And the customer's like, oh, it looks beautiful. Just leave it the way it is, and you're like, yeah, but it just, I don't know. Like something ain't right here.
Let's be honest. You don't like it. I don't like it. Let's fix it. Yeah.
At that point, are you like going to the customer and saying, I know you don't really like this, so give me like an extra day and I'll fix it,
Yeah.
It's one of
But
those
you know
things.
what, though,
Like, I don't know. Sometimes
if you correct that, I think you're going to win over a customer a lot more by doing something like that. Like, you're going to have nice customers. They're going to say, no, it's a lot better than what it looked before, and you're not satisfied with it. And if you go to extra mile, maybe you're losing time and money by having to make corrections to this issue. But at the end of the day, you're probably going to make your money back because they're going to be like, man, this company, they did the job and they didn't like it and they fixed it and, they spent more time on it. That's a company that actually cares about the client and more importantly cares about their work, their calling card, and I think it doesn't happen often, but if it does, you could afford to do it, and you have an obligation to do that too. You set aside you tell a customer a certain thing and give them that expectation, it doesn't meet that expectation, then you got to do what it takes to kind of get there.
Yeah, I think you gotta. Here you go. Here's one for you. Okay. I got one for you because it just popped up. Let's say a customer you ordered, they wanted a certain plant, okay,
Mm.
and you can get the plant, you get the plant for them, and you just did a job a couple of houses down from them, and they liked a different plant that you installed, but you already had talked to them. They wanted the one they kept telling you they wanted a certain one. Now they want to change it up. Would you change it up for them?
After everything's finished,
Yeah,
of course, but it's going to cost them.
right.
Yeah. I'll be like, fine, yeah, I'll change it, but you change your mind, then it's gonna cost you more, man.
Right.
That's why you need to get like that clarified before the job actually occurs. Like, hey,
Right.
listen, like at this, be clear and transparent with them. Listen, I'm gonna order this plant, but once we make this order, this is the way it's gonna be. Like, if you change your mind later on, like, so think long and hard about what service that you want. And
Right.
I think that, like you said earlier, that communication is important. But again, yeah, you finish a job, you worked your ass off. They hate it, but you know, because they
But
changed
they
their mind.
wanted it. They wanted it at first. So it's like,
Yeah, they're gonna
it's one
pay
of those
for it.
things. I mean, I think, yeah, if customer asks to have something changed, then do it for them. You might, it might be something that you already, have installed or bought, but go ahead and, make sure the customer's happy. I think that comes down to the main point. It's just like if you do a landscaping job and the customer's not totally happy, are you going to, be like, oh, well, this is what you paid for?
Mm.
I mean, yeah, you can tell them that, but, say, is there something else that we can change for you? And I think that's one of the things when you first go for an estimate, go through with the customer and say, I always like to say, what kind of colors are you looking for?
Mm.
If I'm planting colors, what's your favorite color you want to put in there? And you could ask the husband, but 90% of the times ask the wife, ask the wife because she's the one that wants the landscaping, So, you're going to be out there and, the husband might be just rip it all out and just put in boxwoods. Yeah. But what does the wife want? Does she
Mm.
want some roses? Does she want, whites? Does she want yellows? I think that comes down to it, make it something that they're both going to enjoy instead of just
Mm.
ripping it all out and installing boxwoods in,
The
so
the beauty nowadays, we're blessed, man. We have like AI now that we could show them the different options. You could show them like, hey, this is what you know, idea number one looks like, idea number two looks like. But again, what they see in AI may not be the exact same thing that they see in the finished product, right?
right.
Because you got to make sure that they know that this is just what it could potentially look like, and what it might not. You know, you might look at it in person and be like, yeah, it's not what I like. But
Yeah. It's always hard. I think, yeah, yeah. But
if they want a
that's one of the
service
things I
and they're
think you
asking
should
for
always,
something,
yep,
yeah,
give them the service they want. Give them, they sometimes customers will contact you because you're the professional. They want to know your input too. So give them your input. Tell them what you suggest, but then, see if there's something that they like. There's been years that, we've done jobs to where, you know, I'll go to a customer and say, they want to, go for a new install. And I'll say, okay, what plants don't you like?
mm,
What plants do you like? I mean, sometimes they can be like, I don't know, or they might be like, well, I don't like this bush, and they might be pointing to a spirea or a burning bush or something. And then you can be like, oh, okay. So you don't like these ones, I'll make sure that we don't install any of these. So you gotta kind of feel them out sometimes and actually see what they like and sometimes see what they don't like because
right.
sometimes, yeah, they're just looking for input, but then a lot of times they're going to tell you exactly what they don't like.
Right.
And you could go ahead and install something that they don't like, and then you're out there re-ripping it out because they didn't like it.
Yeah.
So definitely check with them. I mean, I think that's one of the most important thing, and I think that's one of the things, like, before you finish up lies the quote, ask them too. When you send them a quote, ask them, is there anything we need to change before we go farther into this? Definitely, I think that's one of the best things to do. Yeah. So, as life changes and we get busier, do you think we're going to get lots of snow this year?
I don't even want to think about snow right now, man.
Josh is thinking about it. Josh is thinking about it right now.
I'm still not over the last snow we had this past season, man.
Oh my gosh,
it's brutal, man. I mean, I know, like, I'm talking from a personal standpoint. I don't like snow, so I don't make money off of it, so I could say that. But I hate snow. I don't like it. I don't ski. I don't snowboard. I don't do any of that stuff. Like, I'm,
So then just not have snow. There we go. We'll just not have snow.
Well, I gotta move out of it. I gotta go see Pete down at GCI Turf, man.
Yeah.
Live down there in North Carolina.
Yeah, there you go. I don't know. It's one of those things. I think there's a lot of things that changes, throughout the year. And I know that, snow is one of those things. Yeah, over the years, I've gotten to the same point, JC, to where it's like, I don't know, we've had all those years without snow so much that it's more of like, I'd rather not have snow. I'd rather be doing something else, doing cleanups or anything else besides snow, because I mean, it can, I don't know. As they get older, I feel like a lot of guys get out of the business because they get older and they don't like the cold, so, life changes. So
let me ask you this. I never knew this. So, does your company do cleaning out gutters?
We clean out one customer's gutters. We've done it for years. It's more of a one story. So literally, it's not that tall and, really that bad. I usually can climb a ladder and blow it out, or climb up on a roof and do it. I used to climb up on a roof and do it, and I used to do a couple other ones, but I've kind of gotten away from it. Only because of the factor is that climbing up on the roof, you're still putting yourself at a risk, and there's a lot of insurance risks with it, and a lot of people, I don't think, realize that there is insurance risks with that, and they sell that as part of their company too. So I think you got to look at different, if you can get away with a one story, that's fine. Same with, I think, with Christmas lights. I don't think a lot of guys are getting into the Christmas lights, and I feel like there is some insurance things that you probably should look into before you get totally into, Christmas lights too, to make sure that if you have a company and a couple guys, make sure that, ladders can come into a big factor sometimes. It's kind of like doing tree work, so, make sure you got the right insurance, like JC would say, and Josh would say. Josh would be like, hey, make sure you call your insurance guy and get, W49665, whatever. So, make sure you got insurance for it. So, yeah. Now, would you clean your gutters or clean somebody else's gutters?
Did I tell you a story about how I tried to do that once?
No.
So a few years ago, I have a colonial, so it's 2 stories.
Okay.
But I was like, I'll just get on top of the garage and do the gutters on the garage, So I get the ladder, I get my PB 9080 blower, and I climb up, and everything's good. I'm blowing the leaves out and everything like that, and just having the time of my life. And then when it got time for me to get down on the ladder, I froze. Like, I have this backpack on me. My knees are wobbling.
Right.
And I'm like, I don't know how to get down this ladder because I have this backpack blower on me, and Scott, I kid you not, this is no exaggeration. I was up there for about 15 to 20 minutes just trying to figure out how to get down.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
a lot of it was fear driven. So I'm like, I got down eventually safely, and I'm like, I'm not ever doing this again. I'm gonna pay the pros to come and do it. And I even thought about before that going up on the very top of my roof on the second floor. I'm like, there's no way. If I couldn't even get down on the garages, I'd be stuck up there. No way.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'd be dead. I'd be dead.
Yeah, it's one of those things. I mean, I've done some really scary ones before, and you really think after a couple years of doing it, like, why am I going up there and doing it?
Mm,
I used to have one that literally it was two-story, kind of like what you're saying, but they had a lower half, kind of like a garage that you could get up onto it,
mm,
and then you could kind of walk up the garage to a peak, and then kind of just had to jump up a little bit, and you can get onto the second floor. And we used to do that, but the second floor, you had a section that literally you had to like almost lean over and blow it out. And I used to do it, and after like a couple years, I'm like, I'm not doing that again. Like,
mm.
there's and you're looking down from down the bottom, looking up, like,
No
why
way,
am I
man.
doing that? Like, why? Why am I doing that? So
Dude,
yeah.
roofers are fearless, man.
Hmm.
Those guys are fearless. They're putting the what do you call it? The shingles,
Yeah,
right on
right
their
on the backs
shoulders,
and going up there. Yeah,
climbing up that ladder like nothing, no harness, no nothing, man. Those guys have zero fear.
they can
Balls,
have it.
balls of steel, man. Balls of steel.
They can have it. I'm not that. I mean, I've done my roof here at my house. Um, did brand new roof on my house, and I tell you what, that was one of the things I did, and I'm kind of like, how did I do it? Because
Huh.
we have a steel roof, and once you start to get to a certain point, you start to lose your grip. So it's one of those things you're kind of like, okay. And I have had to replace a couple panels, and I'll tell you what, I definitely put a harness on and connect to a vehicle down below just in case, because I'm not gonna be able to fall off of that roof. So,
And you're
um,
burning up there too.
oh yeah, oh yeah. I think there's a lot of things that we can do in our business to add services, and it all depends on how you feel about doing it. I know a lot of guys don't like to do irrigation because they're afraid of, the whole, digging holes and catching into stuff. And
Mm,
I think you got to look at the different things and decide if you want to do it or not. A lot of guys are happy just doing mowing, and that's fine,
mm.
but there's a lot of other services that, like a buddy of mine said, you're leaving money on the table sometimes, so if you can do it, see about if you can do it or not. So, you gotta look into all these different services, but be safe out there. That's
Yeah.
the main thing. Don't overdo yourself, and don't, push yourself to doing something that you're gonna regret down the road and be like, oh, I don't know if
Yeah.
I should have did that.
Yeah. I'm never getting on that roof again.
I don't blame you. I wouldn't either. I wouldn't either. You know, I think that's one of the things with a blower too. With a backpack blower, you got a lot of weight on the back of your back, so it's like, how do you definitely get down? So especially if you got a ladder, like, no,
That was crazy.
was it an A-frame or a regular extension ladder?
Oh, it was just regular extension ladder.
Okay, see, I wouldn't even do it with an extension ladder.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, no way.
Yeah. It was an
Uh-uh.
extension.
See,
I was
that's
stupid.
yeah. That's one of the things I don't mess around with extension ladders. I've had bad experiences with the extension ladders, so I don't know. No,
Yeah.
if it ain't an A-frame, no, I'm good. Would you do okay? Would you rent a lift into your gutters if you could get a lift and go around your house?
I'd feel safer with that
Okay,
way. Yeah, I mean it's still scary, but yeah,
right.
I'd do it.
I think that's an option when you're doing like that kind of stuff, and if you wanted to get into gutters or lighting, you can look at like stuff like that. I mean, nowadays there is those track ones. I know Phil from Vision up in Ontario. He has one of those track ones that can kind of, it's literally like 36 inches wide. It can get through 36-inch gates. So, I mean, that is an option if I mean, yeah, it's probably outrageous money that he paid for it. But I mean, if you're willing to kind of do it nonstop, I mean, that might be worth it. It'd be a lot safer too.
Right. Yeah,
Lot
but I don't think the gutter business is for me.
See, that's something that you experienced, and you now know that that's not a job that you would add to your services if you had the business still. And I think that's where we all look at, sometimes we got to try different services sometimes to see if it's worth it for us, and it's always good to try different services, because then you can say yes or no sometimes after that, like, hey, I'm not going to do that, and I think that's where it comes down to, like what you said before, if you do the job and you're not happy with it, because a lot of times when you do those type of jobs, you're not happy with the way you finished out. So do you then try to redo it, or do you hire somebody to redo it when you're doing a service like that?
If Josh was on the podcast, he'd be like, sub it out, kid,
Yeah. Josh would be like, just take it all and sub it. Just sub everything out. I mean,
Sub
yeah,
it
you
all
could do that. Yep. Best way to do it. Josh will tell you, sub it out. So, all right, guys. So that's all we got today for life changes and life happens. So thank you guys for listening to Landscaping to the Point. Thanks to our sponsor, Cujo, DGP, and Pro Parts Direct. Thank you guys for sponsoring our show. We'll be back probably next week. If JC's around and he wants to do a podcast, we'll be around. I think we'll be back. So we'll come up with a good topic next week. I know it's going to be hot next week, so maybe we'll talk about like how to keep hydrated and stuff. I think that would be a good topic to talk about, because we could do all kinds of things to keep hydrated, especially if we got lots of heat. So, and I know there's some heat going on in a lot of different areas. So keep hydrated, guys. Keep listening. Thank you for all listening. And